We get up with you starting right now. Let's go. Oh, my God. To quote the legendary Jack Buck, I don't believe what I just saw. An incredible night. You know who we are. You know where we're starting. Roll the highlight. Here we go. Comeback of the century. Pacers-Knicks. Game 1 at the Garden. Knicks controlled it most of the night. 8 minutes left. They're up by 12. Jay Will with Jalen Brunson on the bench with 5 fouls. The Knicks go on a 14-0 run.
Well, Karl-Anthony Towns was having his way offensively with 35 points in this game.
And Josh Hart finding OG Anunoby. The Knicks by 17. Indiana creeping back. It's a 7-point game. But when Jalen Brunson puts in this bucket here, he would finish with 43. Monica, it's a 9-point advantage with less than a minute to play.
Well, based on who the Indiana Pacers are and have been in this postseason, not time to celebrate just yet.
No, because they had a guy named Aaron Nesmith. And Alan, he had a night for the ages.
This guy shoots 53% from 3. You should not be going under the screen protecting a lead.
He had 6 threes in the fourth quarter last night. Pacers cut the lead to 5 with that one. Now, critical moment here with the Knicks. Rick Carlisle has done a great job of maintaining his challenge. He challenges and wins there on a foul on Siakam. It's overturned, so the Pacers get it back. Down by 5, under 30 seconds to go, and it's Aaron Nesmith again. This is the Nesmith game. He had 20 in the fourth quarter, and that sets up this. Pacers down by 2, 7 seconds left. Here's how it sounded on their radio.
Haliburton driving, he's in the lane, he nearly lost it, he backs up and unloads a 3. Oh, that did not happen! It hit the back of the rim, it popped high into the air, and it dropped gently through the net.
That is a perfect description in every way, except it turns out to be a 2. Alan, what do we see on the play?
Watch the ball leave the screen. It's not even in the screen. It's not even in the frame of the shot. That's how high up it went, and as he said, dropped right through. Look at the players. Look at the crowd. Look at the crowd. The air came out of the building right there. Right there. And Knicks fan said, I've seen this movie before, and I don't like this movie.
You see, the toe is on the line, so it is a 2, and instead of a Pacers win, it is overtime, tied at 125, so the drama would continue. Minute and a half left in the OT. Pacers down by 1. Coach, how good was Haliburton last night?
He was spectacular. Every shot that needed to be made, every play that needed to be made, he made the play.
He had 31. Pacers take the lead there. Now they're down 1. Obi Toppin! The former Knick with the putback. Pacers up by 1. 20 seconds to play. Knicks down 1. They're going to throw it away right in front of Timothy Chalamet, of all things. And the Pacers are going to get a timeout call.
Help out there.
They're going to get a timeout call. The call is reversed. It's Rick Carlisle had a very good night in a lot of different ways. And then it's the former Knick Toppin again. A lot of contact, no call. Pacers a 3-point lead. 138-135. We have 12 seconds left in the overtime. Monica, where do the Knicks go when they need 3?
You're obviously going to go to Jalen Brunson. He leads the postseason with clutch scoring. I think he had 43 points going into last night's game.
He did. He had 43 last night, but that one's not even close. But then they're going to get a great look. Karl-Anthony Towns.
That's the one, Greeny. That's the one that should have went down. That's his shot.
It's no good, and then the scramble underneath, and that's how it ends. The Pacers win a miracle. Haliburton after.
I'm like, it's going in. You know, it just felt like it got stuck up there, though, you know. And honestly, when it, went in, I thought my eyes might have been deceiving me in the moment. But it felt good when it left my hand. If I would have known it was a 2, I would not have done it. So I think I might have wasted it. If I do it again, then people might say I'm like aura farming. So I'm not, I don't plan on using it again.
Okay, so the word is unprecedented. We have been keeping track of this since 1998. Teams that trailed by 9 or more points in the final minute or fourth quarter of overtime in a playoff game were 0-1,414 going into last night.
That's a typo. That's got to be a typo.
It is quite literally something that had not been done at minimum in this century and quite possibly never before. We just don't have statistics that go that far back, Jay.
So statistically, that's the worst home loss in New York Knicks history, and it's the biggest choke job in NBA playoff history, just based off the statistics, right?
It's like, that is one way to look at it, yes.
New York had it, MSG had it, and then they fumbled it. And then Indiana literally came into Madison Square Garden, an iconic venue, and grabbed the mic and told New York to shut up. That's what happened last night. I mean, that's how incredible of a game it was last night. And I know we're going to talk about New York, but all hats off to the Indiana Pacers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's one of the greatest games I've ever seen. Cheers to the Indiana Pacers for making that comeback.
It's what they do. Nobody should be surprised by that. It's what they do. The Knicks were looking in the mirror. The Knicks were the team that had some closings in this series, the closeout games. And sorry, JB, but one of them obviously in Detroit is unforgettable. But that's who they were. But they weren't used to it being done to them. And so it was a stunning move, but it should not be surprising because that's what Indiana has been doing.
Until the end of time.
Are you kidding me?
Haliburton makes this shot, and this is the one that will be remembered because of the dramatic nature and the premature choke job and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is that this moment doesn't happen, Monica, if Aaron Nesmith doesn't have one of the genuinely insane fourth quarters that any player has ever had in the history of the NBA playoffs.
He hit 6 threes in that fourth quarter, Greeny, and a couple of them were decently defended, and he still knocked them down cash, not even hitting the rim. Like, the energy in this ballgame. One of my keys in this one coming into it was actually the wing play. Because of Nesmith and Nembhard, I don't think they get the credit that they deserve, and what it would look like for the Knicks wings to begin to stifle those guys. Both of those guys, Nesmith in particular, he's been in double figures in 8 of his last 9 games. He's very comfortable in the postseason, and he stepped up big.
Yeah, when you study the Pacers team, you understand that those two role players, they're a big part of what they do and what make them successful. Everybody wants to talk about Turner, Siakam, and obviously what Haliburton has done. But what separates this group from the rest of the league is they have 2 stars in their role that are two-way players. They defend and they make shots.
I was a part of the Pacers-Bucks series, and Rick Carlisle said straight up, the reason that Indiana got out to the slow start they did on the season at large was because Andrew Nembhard was not healthy. And once he got healthy, look at the calendar, January, the defense fell into place, the offense fell into place, and this is what you get.
Nesmith went Klay Thompson. Like, he just had one of these moments where, and I'm situated where I am at the Garden, right by the visitors' bench, and the perspective that I had was being able to see him constantly turning to his bench. And as the players got up to celebrate, each made 3, his eyes were so wide, as if like, I'm on one. Like, he knew he was on one. And they were smart. They were finding him every time, and for some reason, the Knicks kept going under screens. That time, Hart slipped. That was the one that cut it to a 2-point game. That's the one that I think you see there. This one right here is when, you always believe, but that's the one that's like, not just we believe we can come back. It was, we're going to win this game. That was the difference maker with that shot there.
Maybe Greg Popovich used to always talk to me about who are you when you get tired, right? And I think down the stretch, considering that the Knicks have a shorter rotation, 7 players that play the majority of their minutes, there's a cumulative effect that goes into that game. And when you look at a lot of those Naismith threes, a lot of those are just miscues where defensively the Knicks are standing up. Like, there's not a sense of urgency about being down in the stance, and it's just attention to detail down the stretch. That's what ultimately was the Achilles heel.
Well, when you take a look at it, there were so many small things to your point. We talk about pickup point, right? When you're in a game and you have a lead, you want to protect the 3-point line. Go back and watch the clip. How many times guys were below the 3-point line and allowed guys to get into their shot? Or, like you said, they went under screens. At that point in time, you'd much rather give up a 2 than give up a 3. So going under puts you already in a disadvantaged situation.
And by the way, for as special as Jalen Brunson was in the game, when you have 5 fouls, I mean, that's also
huge part
something
of it
that the offense can then attack, because now defensively,
he doesn't want to foul.
Yeah, and he has to stay in the game because he is the best clutch time player in the playoffs. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's Tyrese Haliburton.
Here you go.
I don't know, but they're right there. They're right there. That's why this matchup is so great.
We have sat here on a couple of different mornings during this postseason talking about the Knicks doing this exactly to the Celtics, or almost this, because again, this was a comeback quite literally the likes of which we'd never seen before. And in all of those mornings, I remember saying, for the Knicks to come back in this game, they couldn't do that without help. You can't come back from this deficit without the team that is in front making the mistakes that are required, the door coming open, and that's clearly what happened.
We kind of have seen a comeback like this before. It was just Reggie Miller in 1995.
Well, yes. I mean, in the history of this,
To Greeny's point, the 2 things to me that stand out in the midst of this comeback, free throws. You gotta have free throws. Game 1 at home, trying to protect the lead. You have an opportunity to keep the basketball game at a 2-possession game twice in the last minute. Karl-Anthony Towns makes this one.
Good free throw shooters missing free throws.
80 plus. One of them is shooting 92 and one of them is shooting like 88. You gotta have free throws. Not to mention though too, I think Jalen Brunson was out. He comes back in the game at the 5-minute mark. There's like a stretch in there between like 6 and 4 where the shot selection to me I thought was too quick. You play right into the hands of the Pacers because even though you got a shot on goal, a long shot, a quick shot, a missed shot, run out. That's basically a turnover so they can go down the other floor and score quickly, which they did.
By the way, in 1995, John Starks missed two free throws as well.
You know,
I mean, it's just there's a lot of similarities.
You know what you had last night?
Game one, same thing.
This is what I had last night walking out.
I refuse to be bullied by Jay.
I'm not bullying you. These are factual things that occurred.
And JB's loving every minute of this too after what he went through. But I'll tell you this.
I'm not mad.
Walking out of the building, though, one of the things you see is a lot of fathers and sons, right? And there's always been this thing with this current generation of Knicks fans is that all they hear about is how great the 90s were, how great they were. And then the dad just kind of says like, well, it was like that too. And so this generation's learning that, oh, this is what you were talking about. Because not only was it great times, it was painful moments like this.
You were telling me this morning,
like
fascinating, Len, here are some of the legendary moments. We'll actually do a list of where last night ranks in the history of this extraordinary rivalry, almost all the previous moments. My God, look how young Spike was back then. Anyway, the point, JB, the point is you were telling me this morning that when you were down that many points in the fourth quarter, on some level, you're just coaching for the next game. You're coaching to get your team feeling good about itself. Not if you win, it's not even really what you're thinking about is we're going to come back and win this game.
What you're trying to do is continue to preach what you've preached. Is we play through the whistle, right? You give yourself an opportunity. But in that opportunity, you want to give yourself some life going into next game. I thought the New York Knicks did a great job for about 44 minutes of dominating this game. They were more physical. They were more gritty. All the toughness things they did a great job of, and that's why they were able to build that lead. So if I'm in Rick Carlisle's shoes, I'm trying to find the positives, down 16, down 17, to close the game out. Now we go back to the film and we say, hey, we did these things well. Let's start game 2 by doing these things.
And instead, at some point, all of a sudden you think, holy smoke, we might win this thing, and they did. One of the most dramatic finishes, and of course that proved not to be the finish as it just sent the game to overtime. And so in the end, Game 1 Knicks-Pacers features 273 points, which is the most in any conference finals game ever. They say styles make fights. The Pacers certainly pushed the pace. Could that be trouble for a Knicks team that plays their starters such heavy minutes? Charles Barkley thinks yes.
Knicks, to me, they look tired. They did. Exhausted. They look exhausted. Because obviously we have a camera view where we can watch players like, yo, this man is bent over in the second quarter. And I says, but the Pacers going to play like this every game. If they play 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, 7 games. And now, because the Knicks went an extra game because we were working on the schedule with the Celtics, these things that we're going to play every other day now.
That's right, we are.
And you can't – so to answer your question, can they play those guys –
7 guys.
Every other day? No, they cannot.
So we have all those things and more. I mean, that's how the Knicks have gotten to where they are. The Pacers outscored the Knicks 31-17 off the bench yesterday. And you were saying Rick Carlisle has been hammering this point home.
It was something he said in the postgame that caught my attention. He said, this is day 1 of 13 days. That, of course, would be a 7-game series. And what he's setting up for is to let the Knicks know you're in for a marathon. And it's going to be like this. And he's going to play the long game by the later part of this series. That's going to wear them down because they played 10 guys last night, 7 minutes or more, and they have the depth that has been part of their success, and they're looking at the Knicks saying, can you keep up?
Well, also, it's so different than how Boston played, right? Because Boston, for the majority of their games, played iso basketball with Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, so it allowed you to take some seconds off defensively from a rest position. But when you think about when Boston lost Jason Tatum, the ball started moving a ton, backdoor cuts, a lot of movement off the ball. That's how Indiana plays, but at a faster pace.
And I think that's why when you talk about pace with this team, you're not just talking about transition basketball and getting up and down the floor. You're talking about the attention to detail in the half court and the way that demands that you are clicking on all cylinders quickly defensively to communicate, which is why late when you're looking, you're like, oh, the threes that you're giving up, Nesmith. That's because of the pace that they play with even in the half court set.
Yeah, first of all, you got to give Rick Carlisle credit. He's made some great moves strategically last night. But then to your point, he plays the mental warfare game better than most. The things that he says in the post-game press conference or even to start the series is to put doubt or put thought in your mind. So now that emotional stuff and the mental fatigue, it starts to weigh on you as well.
And look, sometimes the numbers just jump off the page. Matt, can we put a B15, please? Part of this certainly stems from Jalen Brunson having picked up his 5th foul in this game, but the Pacers wind up shooting 10 of 12 from the floor with Brunson as the primary defender. They scored 26 points directly from on-ball screens when Brunson was the screener defender. That's the most allowed in any game of his career, including regular season and playoffs. So, Coach, they have a strategy. They go to it again. It's emphasized, or it is perhaps made all the more significant because Brunson has the 5 fouls and can't take a risk of picking up his 6th. But they clearly used that strategy to their enormous advantage last night.
Well, I mean, it's understandable, right? When you have a guy that has the impact on the game that Jalen Brunson does, if he has 5 fouls, you want to try to get him out of there. So you're gonna put him in the action and try to make it as difficult as you can. And then the other thing I thought they did a great job is putting 2 bodies on him when he got in the isolation situation. It wasn't gonna be him versus one guy anymore because I think we've seen what happens. So they decided, look, we're going to put 2 guys on him, make him play in a crowd, be physical with them, and try to frustrate him as much as we can, but get the ball out of his hands and see if somebody else can make the plays to beat us.
You're seeing right there, as the game goes on, and maybe this is a function of fatigue, I don't know, but there were moments late in that game when it looked like the Pacers had more players on the floor than the Knicks did, right?
Well, they were fresher. They're fresher,
Sometimes
right?
it gets frenetic, and it feels that way. It looks like they were able to blitz Brunson and still have no trouble rotating. No one winds up open. Usually when you do that, you run the risk of someone winding up wide open. Last night it did not seem to be the case.
And it was the foul trouble with Brunson that I think would have affected him. So part of them attacking him defensively was not only that they think he's a weak defender, because I think he's gotten a lot better as a defender over the last couple of years, but it was getting him in foul trouble. It was wearing him down. And sometimes it's not just about wearing him down by picking him up 54 feet. It's also wearing him down by making him play defense all the time as well. And then once he had the foul trouble, now it makes it even more that he's got to be careful. But they did well without him. 14 straight points the Knicks scored while he was on the bench, while he was resting in the 4th quarter. But when he came back in the game, you knew he had the 5 fouls, and they went right back to attacking him.
We have this question that a lot of people ask, who has the most to gain? Who do we spend most of our time talking about? Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, big body Brunson being the most clutch player. The most underrated player left in the playoffs is Tyrese Haliburton. And we should start referring to him in the biggest stages. These have been 3 demoralizing comebacks they've had in critical situations throughout the playoff. It's been one of the best playoff runs that we've seen in a long time, and nobody really talks about it the same way or with the same venom that we talk about Edwards, or we talk about SGA, or we talk about Jalen Brunson.
Well,
maybe it's time we start talking about Tyrese Haliburton that way.
I love your word choice because he's the guy that people named overrated, right? And you're saying he's underrated, and you happen to be 100% right. Look at the big shots he has made. Here he was against Milwaukee with the huge shot there to help his team find a way to win that series and moving on, and then he does it again last night. He did it against Cleveland in the 2nd round series as well here. Tyrese Haliburton just spectacular.
He's been phenomenal down the stretch. And by the way, also, it's where he gets his shot off from, JB. Right. It's an unorthodox shot, which I almost think it throws people off on where the ball actually comes from. Because even on that last play with Mikal Bridges, he's so good at changing angles. And he's a little bit of that herky-jerky kind of Jamal Crawford. Not the same smoothness, you know what I mean? But unorthodox dribbling style.
And he's got 2 different shots. Like his spot shot is different than his off-the-bounce shot. So like where he releases the ball off the dribble is different than when he does in his spot. So when he creates that space, because he's 6'6" with long arms, he gets that step back, he can create separation. Like that last clip, the idea to run out of the play and run back to the 3 left Mitchell Robinson in a tough position.
We played 46 good minutes. Those 2 minutes is where we lost the game.
5 consecutive threes for Neesmith. A 16-4 run by Indiana.
We've seen Haliburton be special in these moments.
I already have the confidence to take the shot in the moment. I'm like, it's going in.
At the foul line, step back straight on 2-pointer and in, and we have overtime.
We've shown all year that we can win in some mysterious, weird ways.
And Indiana has won and captured game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals on the road in the Garden.
Obviously, it's not a good feeling, but a lot of basketball left to be played.
It is not an exaggeration to say that we saw one of the most dramatic postseason games in NBA history last night, the miracle comeback from Indiana. We've talked a lot about the emotion so far this morning. Now let's dive into the detail. Give me some X's and O's on how this incredible night broke down.
Well, the conversation we were having is, who are your defensive traits when you're tired, and can you think with the cumulative effect of the pace in which Indiana plays with? So as you're going to see off the first play, just a little transition defense here. Now everybody's backpedaling. Right, JB? You got OG, he's backpedaling. You got Cat, he's backpedaling. And you made attention of a detail that I think is really important.
Well, you see Tyrese Haliburton and Mikal Bridges there, right? Mikal Bridges understands how big of a threat Tyrese Haliburton is, even this far away from the floor. And the way the game is going, the most dangerous thing right now is the three-point shot. You got to have higher pickup points, more contact to eliminate the three-point shot.
All right, so look at the gap here between OG and Pascal, and then look at the gap here between Naismith and Karl Anthony Towns. And as the play develops, and you're going to see it in slow-mo, it's going to be a little bit of a DHO. And just watch how late of reaction time. And look how much space here that's going to be on the court for him to operate off a little catch-and-shoot situation off a DHO. Play goes. OG is so far down because of transition, attention to detail, right? Locking there of being tired. That's the 5th three that he made in a row. Attention to detail matters. Next play, you're gonna see once again, off a little pin down in the corner. So pull out a little bit. I always think this is interesting because we're gonna look at the situation here in the corner, okay? So this is Josh Hart in this particular situation. You have two choices as a defender, JB, right? If I'm guarding you on a side down, pin down, I can either chase you around the screen, which I'm trying to stay on your shoulder to force you to drive the ball, or I could take the shortcut, which is typically what you do when you get tired, right? You try to shoot the gap because you try to meet him.
Well, so understanding too, if I'm Josh Hart and the distance of the pass from Haliburton to Naismith, I do feel like I have time to get to him if I do take that shortcut and shoot the gap. But what I want to do when I shoot the gap is I want to send him back to the help. The big guy, Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin are there in the corner. I know that there's a presence there and he won't be able to get off an easy catch and shoot three. We give up the middle here. He gets that wide open three because there's no help, because Bridges is staying home with Haliburton to eliminate his three-point shot.
So if anything, you want to send him back into Mitchell Robinson here on the sideline in the baseline. You don't want to allow him to go middle. And what does he get? He gets a little bit off balance. He gets to the middle and another dagger for three. And here's the last play that I thought was really fascinating, guys. Just understanding in the game in overtime, attention to detail, staying down in the stance and not ball watching. Just pay attention to Josh Hart here. We talk about some of these guys logging over 40 minutes in a critical possession of the game. You're going to see a simple ball cut here off Nembhard. He's just going to kind of lackadaisically cut through. He's not a hard cut like he's cutting for the ball. He's just cutting through. And just watch Josh Hart standing up here. Comes off the ball screen up top. No ball pressure. Nembhard, he's able to make the pass here. Haliburton just cutting through. Caught, ball watching. Easy lay.
If you hold it there, the thing that we were talking about, decisions that Rick Carlisle made, he made the decision to go small, right? Obi Toppin at the 5. Because Obi Toppin is spaced in this corner down here, Mitchell Robinson, whose responsibility normally is always protect the paint, but because there's a shooter there in the corner on the strong side, when Nembhard cuts, he doesn't go and help, and now that's why he's able to get a wide open layup as well.
So these are just the little play breakdowns that kind of led to the avalanche effect, right?
It's extraordinarily good by both of you guys, and an extraordinarily good look. I mean, these things, it's a huge flurry of comebacks, but it's just a ton of tiny little moments, and each one of those were necessary for a Pacers team to come all the way back. Let me once again put some numbers up on the screen for you. The Knicks were up 14 points with 3:44 left. The ESPN analytics say at that moment, the Knicks have a 99.8% chance to win. 99.8%. Here were Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart after the game.
Can't really summarize it. Give them a lot of credit. They closed the game out like they've been doing it all playoffs. Not really good on our part.
Defensively, we let off the gas. The intensity, the physicality wasn't there. Offensively, we were playing slower, a little stagnant, and looked like we were playing out to lose.
So the conference finals are a fascinating time. Having been there and traveled with it for a couple of years, you get a sense of just how grueling this every other day game is. Maybe on some level that's a good thing for a Knicks team that doesn't have any time to dwell on what happened. How would you describe the mood of the Knicks after the game last night?
They were frustrated. They were mad at themselves. They knew they gave one away. And again, they know what that looks like from the other side. It happened in Boston twice when you're on the road. So they know exactly what happened and what happened to this series. This is a Knicks team. Monica and I both know this well about them, is that they usually respond well after things like this. They are a very mentally tough team. So I would expect Friday night you're going to see them pay more attention to the details that you guys were pointing out.
Yeah, that was an excellent tape, JB and Jay. But I think also, too, like, there is a individual accountability. I love the call out of Mikal Bridges understanding the moment of Tyrese Haliburton. I don't care if it's find Aaron Nesmith. He has knocked down 4 threes at this point. Somebody find him. I'd rather be mad that there were 2 of y'all guarding him than nobody in position to contest the shot. And so I think there has to be, yes, they're going to respond because that's who they've been all season, but I also think individually there's some accountability of understanding the moment.
I'm always fascinated by these things. I mean, Rex Ryan, who I work with here every week and on Sundays all the time, had a famous game where his team got blown out, a Jet game where his team got blown out. He's going to show up at whatever point they're going to come in. And what are you saying this morning after you just let a game go that quite literally no one had ever lost in the history of the playoffs?
Well, you got to make sure your guys are ready to move on. And in order to move on, you have to watch it, you have to hold yourself accountable, and you have to discuss it. So the emotional piece of it is what has to be dealt with first, and then understanding, okay, now we've dealt with that. We know the mistakes we made. Now we watch the film and we make adjustments. I think they've got some decisions to make, right? We keep talking about fatigue. They played well when they played up and down against this team, but were they fatigued at the end because of it? So do they need to play a slower style of pace? So I think there's going to come down to some nice adjustments to make.
We talked about that yesterday. You and Brian Windhorst did an excellent job. I kept joking around about how the key against the Pacers is the pace, but that the game was going to be determined last night. And I think Stan Van Gundy said this in the open of their telecast on TNT last night as well. The pace is going to be the key. The Pacers want to go up and down the floor. The Knicks want to play deep in the shot clock.
Skirt. Hold up.
Let's skirt
those
this.
Free throws.
Yes.
Those free throws make it a 2-possession ball game. I hear you. Yes, as we reflect on it, the pace maybe got to them and all that, but you're at home in an opening game. You have been the assaultant in terms of someone who's taken these leads out of other teams' hands. You've been on the other side of the 99.8% thing. You have to have those free throws. Like, you have to have those free throws left late in the game. Well, to me, the Pacers, I don't know, they are going to make you pay for every mistake. And to me, those free throws are a glaring thing down the stretch.
Well, number one, they were up 9 with 40 seconds left to go in the game, okay? There is a play where Jalen Brunson makes that pass off the inbounds, and it doesn't always come down to smaller plays, and it does come down to free throws, you are correct. But also, like, why even try to make the pass? Hold on to the ball. Yeah. You are the clutch player. You are the guy that closes things down the stretch. Instead of trying to score, just pull that ball back out, force them to foul you, extend the game, make your free throws. It's little things like that I think accumulative. Yes, well, I hear you catch the ball, but don't even pass it.
I got you, but just we made it.
They have to foul you.
You see what we're doing? You see what we're doing, though? We are finding any little thing that we can find that is the reason why. And that's what happened last night as everybody walked out, as all the Knicks players filed into the locker room shaking their heads. It was always, if we just did this one thing. The problem is there was like 5 one things instead of just looking at the 6 one things, which was the 6 3-pointers that a guy hit and he just detonated. Sometimes it is live and die by the 3. And they found life with those 3-pointers that Nesmith was hitting, and the Knicks somehow couldn't find the odd hand to stop him.